What do you think if we actually sort of localize this? We actually let the local government to actually run certain activities in distributions of the electricity.
Yeah.
According to the law, is there.
Yeah.
But nobody is trying to do that.
Yeah. That is not the case in Indonesia, where we applied vertically integrated market, monopoly market, meaning that PLN is the sole buyer, transmitter, and distributor.
That's right. You know, the carbon credit for renewable energy developers, PLN will take it. The whole thing. And none of it will give to the developers. What do you think about it? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yes, oh yes. Decarbonizers, carbon activists, carbon friends all over the world. Welcome back to another episode of Carbon Forum with me, Poempida Hidayatulloh, as the host. Today we're going to discuss something very interesting related to energy transitions. And with us, we already have a very expert in this matter. His name is Andika Akbar Hermawan. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
And, well, you're from Rocky Mountain Institute?
Yeah.
Tell me more about.
So, Rocky Mountain Institute is basically an organization, Pak.
Organization.
Yes, we actually.
I thought it's like university or something like that. No?
It's like university. It's basically what we're doing is research.
Okay.
But more importantly, what we provide is technical expertise in terms of energy transition. And the organization itself, it's one of the oldest energy organizations in the world, Pak.
Really?
So it's been around for almost 50 years.
50 years.
And it's really famous actually in the US. And now we are trying to expand.
Right.
You know,
what is your role there?
My role is associate. So basically now I'm working with the government of Indonesia to support them in the energy transition efforts, such as JETP, for example.
Yeah. You're a member of JETP also, right?
I'm the member of technical working group.
How do you see the current sort of energy supplies in Indonesia? What I'm saying in terms of energy mix, and then also we're talking about the upstream side. Yeah?
Right.
We are depend upon the fossil fuels too much, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about it?
So right now in Indonesia itself, as you know, almost 70% of our energy is coming from fossil fuel.
Yep.
Which mostly dominated by coal.
Yep.
Now the question is, where is our clean energy generation?
Exactly.
Right. So right now, I think it only takes into account like 13%.
13%, that's right.
But on top of that, the government has also a target. Basically, next year, 2025, the target is to increase the renewable to 23%. Right. And I heard they're going to revise it.
I'm just going to keep my finger crossed on that one, actually.
Exactly. But more importantly, I think they're thinking now to decrease the target, Pak, to 19%. But again, I think the question is how we can increase our renewable energy 6% in a matter of 1 year.
Right.
So that's a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I see it, I mean, you got to give some sort of incentives to the developers of the renewable energy, right? And at the moment, we don't see any. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And then any developers needs to go through very horrendous sort of process to get the contract done.
Yeah.
So, you agree with me, or can you?
No, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. I think one thing that we forget in the realm of energy transition, we are in competition. This is a race, right?
Yeah.
People say that energy transition is a race. It's a marathon, right? But you have to remember that in marathon, there's a cut-off time, meaning that there will be a loser, then there will be a winner, right? If you see that the incentive environment in Southeast Asia, we are not quite in that level yet, meaning that Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam may have better policy than us. So again, incentive, how we enable environment for the private player, that will be the key basically to attract more investment and investment to Indonesia.
Well, I've been doing this for a long time, actually, since 2007. We've been trying to push the government to focus on certain development of renewable energies, especially wind and solar.
Right.
But what happened was at that time I worked together with the masyarakat METI, that's right. Energi Terbarukan Indonesia.
Right.
Yeah. So we had a lot of meetings at that time. We got some ideas to sort of ask the government to implement this thing called the feed-in tariff.
Yeah.
That should actually do the trick.
Correct.
One thing, but it never happens.
Yeah.
Now it becomes a ceiling tariff.
Yeah.
And the way that I see the ceiling tariff, it's not lucrative enough.
Correct.
So I don't know how they can actually push this renewable energy sort of achievement in the future if you don't actually look at that issue. I mean, in a sort of thorough way.
Yeah. So obviously, Pak, in terms of ceiling tariff, I think we need to understand the condition of, for example, PLN right now.
Yeah.
The financial condition of PLN is not on the level that we are expected them to be, right?
Well, I mean, they never have anyway.
Correct.
I mean, what I'm saying is they can always ask the additional sort of budget, right?
Exactly.
From the
government subsidies and whatnot, right? But what we are hoping is that the state-owned utility will be more independent in terms of financially, and that is a really big challenge, right?
Yeah.
Of course, on the other side, we have to give credit to them because they are able to maintain the electricity tariff low.
Oh, of course, that's
right?
the main idea on this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the idea of ceiling tariff is to get cheaper energy prices, especially coming from renewable, but on the contradictory, of course, we have to see from the investment point of view that the selling tariff is not enough. In fact, I think the selling tariff is quite low. It makes investment from international partners or international companies, they hesitant to invest in Indonesia. On top of, again, political instability sometimes that we talk about it, how the policy can change from one year to another. So it remains a challenge that we can address. But again, I think the way I look at it right now, the government is moving. PLN as well as the Ministry of Energy, they quite active listening to what kind of problem that exists in Indonesia. And then we start about relaxing, the local content requirement. We start to discuss about how we can make the procurement process better, so on and so forth. So I think the good part, the government is listening, and I think this has become the consensus for everyone to let's go, move forward.
The other thing is when you talk about renewable energy, is the scale, the economic scale of the development sort of stage, because at the moment they are very open for a small scale.
Yeah.
But actually, nobody wants to do it in a small scale way.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, in the past it was like 10 megawatts minimum, maximum. Now it's actually being less, which is 5 megawatts maximum. So by then it's going to be difficult to actually get financing and also arrangement of like credit export and all, So I would propose like minimum 50 megawatts because the nature of the renewable energy is actually inconsistencies and also actually renewable energy is going to cost you more in upfront, but then afterwards you're gonna get like payback period as soon as possible, right?
Yeah.
So I think if they understand it, then it should be easy to actually use some sort of levelized sort of pricing. Like for example, because the payback period normally, if it is like what you call it, the steam power generations, like using coal, like it's gonna be like 30 to 50 years.
Correct.
It depends on how you actually structure it.
Yeah.
But then if you use a renewable energy, probably at 10 years, you can actually reach the sort of payback period.
Yeah.
So you can use the levelized, like maybe PLN needs to sacrifice something upfront, but then after 10 years, they will enjoy a quite affordable sort of electricity.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So
Sorry.
I think in terms of scale, I think the idea of renewable energy, they have to be accessible for everyone. So I think we can argue all day about, whether we should put like a threshold to basically, encourage this private investment to install big capacity and then the idea of, okay, if big capacity, we are going to have the return in a faster way, right? I think that's possible. But again, I think we need to think about the ecosystem. Right? Now, for example, if we compare in Indonesia renewable versus fossil fuel, the coal itself is still protected, for example, by DMO, domestic market obligation, meaning that the coal miners, they can sell, they have to sell their coal locally to the government with a cheaper price. So again, we have to understand like the ecosystem, if we want to really compete with the world and we need to increase our renewable energy capacity, we need to find the right ecosystem. We cannot really compete with fossil fuel if fossil fuel gets protected. It's difficult, right? So on the other hand, I think the government and us overall, we need to demand more competitiveness in terms of energy. And basically, we have to give the access for everyone if they want to install renewable energy. Because again, I think if we look at the industry right now, the demand is there. The demand is there. The question is how they can access it. Right? We're talking about renewable energy certificate and whatnot, right? But again, it's quite complicated in terms of procurement process, and it's a hurdle from the private industry right now.
The other thing is actually related to geothermal. It's not renewable, but it's clean, right? We have a potential of 25,000 megawatts. And then none of them like moves fast, you know. What happened there?
So in geothermal, as you know, like we are, I think, the third biggest geothermal potential in the whole world, right? That's really huge, right? Now, the issue is geothermal, of course, in terms of exploration, there is a lot of risk. And we have to think that geothermal...
it's similar to when you drill oil and gas well, right? It's the same, right?
Even more risky because I work in geothermal projects before, and the formation in geothermal is quite risky compared to oil and gas because they have a lot of cavities, so on and so forth. So
the pressures and all,
the pressure and all of that. But my argument is that geothermal and hydropower, say, it's a dispatch renewable, right? Meaning that it's not intermittent. You can control the energy, but more importantly, they are limited in geographical proximity. Right. So it depends on the location.
Exactly.
And the challenge is how we can connect those sources with the demand center. Right. We do have geothermal in Java Island, but we do have also geothermal resources in Sulawesi. But the demand center is in Java, right? So how we connect not only from generation point of view, but also how we transmit it inter-island. So
the distribution.
Correct. So in terms of renewable energy, it's not a matter of only in generation, but how we actually connect it from one island to another island.
Yes. But the way that I see it is actually one of the issue is the monopoly sort of status of PLN, right? That actually becomes a bottleneck to do this because apparently they have to do like the upstream sides and it's also the distributions at the same time, and then arranging the pricing at the same time. I mean, blimey, that's going to be a nightmare for one entity to deal with because we're dealing with a big country, right? So what do you think if we actually sort of localize these sort of activities? Like what I'm saying is if we actually let the local government to actually run certain activities in distributions of the electricity. According to the law, is there. But nobody is trying to do that.
Because again, political dynamics, it's quite difficult. But from the electricity market standpoint of view, if we see the developed economies such as the US, the UK, what they applied is liberalized electricity market, right? Meaning that in terms of electricity market, we can basically separate the sectors into three categories: generation, transmission, and distribution. And in the generation part, if we talk about liberalized, type, right? It is basically the generators can sell their energy to the grid, and there's a lot of buyers that can purchase the energy. That is not the case in Indonesia, where we applied vertically integrated market, monopoly market, meaning that PLN is the sole buyer, transmitter, and distributor.
That's right.
Right. So I think the idea of using localized energy and creating autonomy for each province, it's really good. It's plausible, right? Of course, we can create some kind of competition between the province, right? And of course, different subnationals level like Bali, Jakarta, they have their own target, right? So I like the idea, right? But there is no guarantee that it will work, right? I actually discussed this a lot.
when you speak about this thing, when you speak about guarantee, nothing is guaranteed.
Nothing is guaranteed.
So don't worry about it,
right?
But we have to sort of put it in public sort of discussion at the moment. So that's our job to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm saying that I believe in the idea. I believe in the idea of competition. So I think my perspective, we need to create more and more competitiveness in the market. That's
I agree. That one I agree.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we are in a carbon forum, and the carbon credit for renewable energy developers.
Yeah.
PLN will take it, the whole thing, and none of it will give to the developers. What do you think about it? Yeah, I know you're gonna laugh. So.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult topics, because we have to understand that the carbon credits, it's additional revenue for the private players, right?
Exactly.
And it's really important.
It's the incentive that perhaps we can actually give it to the developers.
Yes. Right? But what I see is that now the ecosystem is continuously changing. I think the trend right now is more on the carbon removal rather than carbon credit. So Indonesia have a lot of nature-based solution and whatnot, right? So I think in terms of ecosystem, I'm not quite sure what is the policy, the correct way to do it. But on top of it, we have to understand that this is incentive for private players. So I think the government needs to find the optimum balance. I understand that the government have the aspiration to also remove their carbon, but we have to give a fair share, to the private players if they want to develop, their own carbon strategy, so on and so forth. So I think it's a matter of finding the optimum balance.
Yeah. Well, maybe the last one is about JETP. Why do you need to give incentive to people who actually runs a dirty fossil fuel?
Yeah. So it's about
they have a lot of money, man.
Right.
Most of them, they are conglomerates and all. So why do you have to give the incentive to them?
Well, of course,
my question is always like tricky, but
it's really difficult.
It's going to be
really difficult
for the public to know.
Right. But what I think is that basically all the humans are economic agents, right? Of course, they're rich, the owner of the coal power plant, but they are not going to move if there's no incentive, right? And the JETP itself, the nature of JETP, that is 20 billion USD.
I know.
Which 10 billion is going to be conventional finance and 10 billion is going to be private finance. Now let's focus on the conventional finance first, because it's kind of like a trigger.
Okay.
Right? Conventional finance by nature, it's philanthropic.
Yeah.
Right. So we cannot wait for 150 billion philanthropic to go into Indonesia again. No, we cannot. Right. But the key idea of JETP is to prove that early retirement of coal power plant is possible. Because again, we're talking about marathon, we're talking about race, right? On one hand, we have to increase our clean energy capacity, but on the other hand, we need to reduce our carbon emission much more faster than the business as usual. So on the later part, that's one thing that we want to focus. We want to accelerate the retirement first to basically prove that this is possible, and then on the other part, to increase the clean energy generation.
But the PLN is always like having a problem with the electrification sort of issue also, right? So by retiring some other power plants might cause certain issues in the electrification's level.
Correct.
So, in the end of the day, it's balancing sort of scenario that you need, right?
Yes. Absolutely, Pak. But again, we have a different grid system per island. We have Java, Bali, we have Sumatra, we have Kalimantan,
and none of them is smart grids, right?
Yes, none of them are smart grids.
Manually.
We're hoping to go into that direction, but for example, in Java, Bali, we have overcapacity issue right
Actually, it's smart now because it's helped by the mobile phone. They will call and then I'm just kidding.
But in Java, Bali, we have overcapacity issue. And to be frank, not all the coal power plants are efficient. Not all of them. There are a couple of power plants that is old, inefficient, and that's exactly what we target.
Okay.
Right? Inefficient power plant that is expensive to run.
Yeah.
And we're thinking, how is it possible we accelerate the retirement of this inefficient coal power plant? Yeah.
Sounds good. Would you like to sort of share a couple of things to the audience?
Yes.
Related to energy transitions? Make them sort of have a high spirit about this issue.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me.
No, I thank you.
But I think one message that I want to give is especially to younger generation, because again, I think sometimes we get caught up in the midst of, the political status, the political situation, and it's really difficult. But I think right now, we're going to have demographic bonus in the future. And I think energy transition is not only about generating clean energy, right? It's also about competitiveness. And we don't want millions of young people in the future. It's going to be millions. They're going to be unemployed. And more importantly, not competitive. Right? Now, energy transition is becoming the sun of energy technology development, social development, as well as sustainable development. We want this young generation to be able to speak the same language with the global world. So I think it's a chance for you, for all the younger generation that is listening to the podcast.
Hopefully.
But we really need you to really think about what kind of future that you want Indonesia to have. So that is my message.
Wow, that's very good. And I'm very happy that we have like a young generation like yourself, knowledgeable, and also you have like very open-minded visions related to these energy transitions. So congratulations. Keep up the good work. Actually,
thank you very much. My pleasure.
So that was Mr. Andika, and he talked about related to the issue on the energy transitions. Well, we covered most of the issue actually, and we identified a similar sort of point of views related to that, and hopefully that will open up our minds related to these development on the energy development in the future, of course. So stay tuned with the Carbon Forum, and with me Poempida Hidayatulloh as the host until the next episode of Carbon Forum. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.